Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome. Welcome to this last urban talk of the year. Very happy to see so many of you already logged in. Happy to see familiar faces who are coming back. As usual, or if you're new, just drop in the chat where you're joining from. And please take note that this talk is available in Ukrainian and in English. So if you wish to follow it in the language of your choice rather than staying in the general channel, click on the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom window and join your preferred channel. I think there's so many people on time already, so we have an exciting topic today with plenty of exciting guests. So Kevin, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Darini. Sorry. Welcome to everyone. It's great to have so many people on the call today. Thanks for making time at this busy time at the end of the year. It's an exciting topic, reimagining urban spaces, cities' path to innovation. As Darini mentioned, we have a lot of speakers, so it's going to be exciting, and I'm very happy to have you here. If you just joined after Darini's introduction, translation today is available in English and Ukrainian, so just click the globe at the bottom of your screen. And also, if you join later or right now, please mute your mic so we can really have full attention to our speakers today. So my name is Kevin, and I'm working at the UNDP Global Center for Technology, Innovation and Sustainable Development in Singapore. And I'm leading the Smart Cities and Urbanization workstream, which is why I'm particularly excited for today's. I mean, with growing urbanization, we know cities are facing many, many challenges. Urbanization, rapid urbanization is one of it, but of course, climate crisis, unplanned growth of cities, and so on and so forth. I think it's a topic which affects all of us in one way or another. Urban spaces, public spaces are crucial for citizens' happiness, feeling of safety, security, but also just of enjoying and fulfillment and being able to benefit of economic development. We'll hear many stories today about how cities can actually deal with it. Coming out of Singapore and working on smart cities and urbanization, we often speak about being smarter, improving, and really how to make cities more people-centered when using technology, but also when using innovation, which might not be some tech tool or a new app or something else. It can really be redesigning spaces in a physical way as well to really accommodate the needs of different people. Being here in Singapore with 30 degrees, for example, covered walkways, is just very enjoyable when it's hot during the day or right now during rainy season to be sheltered from it. But it also goes further. Singapore, for example, also has started, given its growing elderly population, has started to think about how to redesign urban spaces for people with dementia. So they're really trying to see what are the needs from marginalized people to kind of see how can we redesign spaces and make them more inclusive and more livable. And I think it's a topic which is there and which touches upon all of our lives. Being people-centered, being inclusive, making cities more livable, I think is crucial. And with the growing challenges we face, becomes more and more important. So I'm very happy to hear some stories from the ground today. We are actually on a journey, kind of geographically from west to east. We're going to start with Bosnia and Herzegovina and Amina. We then move to the Arab state region with Marina, based in the regional hub in Jordan. But also a special guest, Ismail, warm welcome to you, who joins us from his work on Palestine and the work in Gaza. And then we stay in that region with Dana from UNDP in Jordan. And then we move to our last speaker today of the day, which is Sargis in Armenia, who shares with us about Yerevan's digitalization journey. As usual, if you have joined before, we'll have 15 minutes per speaker. After every speaker has presented their city and the work they're doing, we move into a panel discussion and we'll end with a Q&A session. Please feel free already during this session to drop your questions in the chat box so we can make sure that they're addressed. There's a team in the background which will help me to make sure that I don't miss anyone. Apologies in advance if I do so. Just write it again, so maybe then it pops up again. Very happy to take them on. If we have a lot of questions, we'll cut a little bit short the panel discussion so we can really address your concerns and your questions. And I'm thinking there's going to be a lot. I've already seen some of the presentations, so it's very interesting. But now, really, with further ado, I'm very happy to introduce our first speaker, an old friend of mine, Amina from Bosnia and Herzegovina. She's the head of solution mapping, and she has a very strong background in also very important aspects of making cities more livable. Her work has focused on integrating social innovation and behavioral insights into UNDP's portfolio, and points are upheld throughout the implementation process. She has successfully collective intelligence efforts and also delivered innovative solutions around key challenges in Bosnia and Herzegovina, such as urban resilience, waste management, and food security. So I'm very happy to have you with us, Amina. The floor is
Well,
yours.
thank you very much for the warm introduction, Kevin. It's so good to see so many familiar faces. And it was interesting hearing that Bosnia and Herzegovina is in the West. That doesn't happen very often. We are indeed a country that is usually placed in the southeast of Europe. It is a transitional society and it's a small country. So please bear in mind these facts during my presentation. And then obviously I'm looking forward to hearing all the questions. I've skimmed through the audience. It's good to understand your audience. And I see many familiar names from the Accelerator Lab network as well. And special greetings to my innovation colleagues from all over the world who are with us today. I will start with my presentation. I hope you see it.
Yes.
Good, very good. Thank you. So I'll be talking about a pilot initiative we have conducted a few years ago and are continuing to explore in the new programming cycle, as is nicely said in the in UNDP jargon. Marina Dimova, who is with us here today, is the guiding spirit behind this initiative. So I'm having this task of presenting the initiative while she is here today with us, and maybe she can also join in the discussion later on. So I'll be talking in the next 10 to 15 minutes about our Reimagine My Street initiative, which is a people-led sustainable urban transformation pilot conducted so far in the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Sarajevo. The whole reasoning behind the Reimagine My Street is to make a blueprint or a new model for sustainable and inclusive urban transformation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And as I said, our society is an interesting one. It's still a transitional society, post-conflict one, but the country is an upper middle income country. In these kind of conflicting features of our cities, the citizens often do not find their place to make any decisions about the public spaces used. So our urban transformation or the Reimagine My Street journey was inspired by an academic work about urban voids in the city of Sarajevo. So we wanted to do this transformation from voids to urban rooms. And these micro locations that were selected for the transformation were intended to serve as a beacon of change and a reflection of citizens' thinking and desires about the city of the future in which they find their place and find the joy of living. So the pilot was conducted in 2021 and 2022 and included a total of 7 micro-locations in Sarajevo. So 5 of them were nominated by the municipality of Center Sarajevo, that's like a downtown of our city, and then 2 more were added later on, which were basically outdoor spaces of public schools. I will tell you more about how the pilot was conducted and how this whole blueprint came to be about. But the intent here was really to mobilize public to show that a different urban development is indeed possible, even in the difficult circumstances in which we kind of live every day here. So I will tell you a little bit about the process of the Reimagine My Street initiative. There were 6 main steps after after the municipality selected these micro-locations for urban transformation. We have developed a on-site consultation and ideation methodology and conducted sessions with users of this space to gather their ideas about how to transform the area. Then all of this on-site consultation was brought in the digital space. I will talk later about our digital platform, which is homegrown. We haven't paid any subscriptions to any of the bigger, most popular spatial websites. We built our own for this purpose. It's called urbanlab.ba, and this platform was used then for a wide online consultations. Based on the blueprint of the space, it's going to be more clear to you when I show you how the blueprint looked, and resulted in like a public consensus around the functions of the space. Then these ideas from on-site and online consultations were translated into several conceptual scenarios of the transformation of these spaces, and then these scenarios were again brought to the public to vote on one of the scenarios which is closest to their heart. Even on one occasion, we employed virtual reality to help the citizens who live there decide on the preferable design. Then the next step is to develop a detailed architectural design for the renewal of the space. And then the final step is for the owner of the space, which is usually a municipality, to engage into construction of the requested of the transformation based on this detailed design. So a few words on like the more digital part of this work. We have developed, as I said, a digital platform from scratch. It's this urbanlab.ba platform, but then you can make some pages for each municipality you're working with. So center.urbanlab.ba is the one developed for the downtown municipality of Sarajevo. And this is how it looked like. So on the home page, you have an overview of the municipality. You can see that on the left, with pinned down micro locations that we were treating. And then on the right, you see how the blueprints of these micro locations looked like in the platform, so that the citizens could actually explore this space in the digital way and then vote and propose and discuss different functions in this space. So this platform enabled collective and structured citizen feedback on particular public spaces, enabled virtual reimagining of this public space through digital designs, and then again enable public voting for different development scenarios, and enable translation of citizens' ideas into renewed and vibrant public spaces. One example out of 7 that we have, and the most prominent one, is the transformation of a large public park in the downtown of Sarajevo. There were many connected issues with this space, but then all of these 6 steps that I mentioned before were run, and then we ended up with a detailed architectural plan for the revitalization of this space. Um, I don't think I have enough time to play you the videos, but then in this first video, you can see how we conducted on-site consultations, and then we moved on to the online consultations, and then we had a public voting on different features of this space. And then there was, through our Urban Lab platform, an international architectural competition for architects from all over the world to actually translate these citizens' ideas and inputs into a concrete architectural design. I am hoping, and we have assurances from the municipality, that the construction based on this design is soon to begin. So we still don't have that space fully transformed, but it's slowly moving there. Many people ask us, how long does it take? How much does it cost? And it's a very difficult question to answer because the ideal timeline for micro locations can be different, but ideally it's around one budget year. Because if you start your work with the municipality in the budget planning phase, you have a very good chance to close it by the next budget year if sufficient funds are dedicated to the construction, right? And then the financial framework can range from very basic investments into some benches and some urban greenery to large-scale infrastructural projects based on what the municipality wants to see in this space and what the citizens and which functions the citizens want to explore as well. I hate this slide because it's full of words, but I think it's the key, it's the essence of what we learned through this process, through a learning diary. And I'm coming from the Accelerator Lab network, and we like to say that we are the fast and the curious, and we love, codifying knowledge. And this is some codified experiences from our urban transformation process in 10 points. So these 10 principles of this collaborative design and transformation of urban spaces are basically the lessons learned in this process. So even though we like to think big, we like to think in systems, urban transformation is best started through manageable little projects that can grow over time. The right to the city is something that's not exercised enough in our part of the world. So the key mantra of this process is that the city belongs to the citizens, not to the companies, not to the owners of the public space, but to the citizens. They should have the first word in how the space is utilized. Then skip the jargon. The common language for a common dialogue is a prerequisite. The architects, the planners, the urbanists, they often use the politicians, very heavy language. And I think units like ours can translate this language into something that is shared with the citizens. Technologies and digital tools are necessary today, and this was done before the whole AI explosion. But I would like to see now how AI could help us in the digital consultations. Maybe that's the next step of this process. Then the next principle is to embrace the process and learn from it. This is a nicer way to say that this can be frustrating. So the focus on the journey and not on the obstacles is something that needs to be exercised daily. The legislative framework for urban transformation is pretty much not there where we come from. So laws and regulations should be changed and adapted to support innovative urban solutions. Something, again, that we in the accelerator labs are very good at is to design the process and not the end result. And that's something that the architects and urbanists struggle with, right? So paying attention to how you bring people in, how you open up the discussion, and not the end result, the end product, the end design is something that I would definitely recommend. Connection with the space and branding of the space and building the identity is another very important thing if you want your citizens to take the ownership of a public space. And then the procurement has proven to be very difficult for us, especially the procurement of works. So that's something to be kind of very cautious about. And then the resources are limited, so make the most of available resources. Go out there, seek for partnerships. This is a system problem. Urban spaces are so multidimensional that you can never have enough space, enough resources to do this. I don't know how I'm doing with the time, but this was just a run through our process. We are now working with several other urban cities or towns in Bosnia and Herzegovina to kind of translate this process to them and to make it a real urban transformation blueprint in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's been a bumpy road, but we are not giving up. If you want to know more about the digital platform or our on-site methodology of involving citizens or anything else, my contact details are here. I imagine the beautiful organizing team will be sharing the presentations, and please feel free to bilaterally or however come back to me. Thank you. Kevin, if you have any immediate questions, I'm here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amina, for your presentation and for sharing all the great work you're doing in Sarajevo. Having lived there, a lot of those places are also very familiar to me, so I'm very excited also to hear that Pastana Park is about to be improved and with citizen engagement. And I really think what was interesting from your presentation is also this hybrid approach you had. So first, really doing on-site with people, you talked about identity, you talked about it's part of the heart. So I think that is what maybe online cannot do to the same extent, but it was interesting that you moved this entire process afterwards also online. I have a lot of questions, but maybe there's also one in the chat which I will take as well. You said what is important is focusing on the journey. So I was wondering, you talked a lot about how you designed the entire process, which is also part of this hybrid mode. Alberto asked a question, and he asked if there's an attempt towards hacking the online voting, if there was trying to influence the results. So that's also part of the design process. So why should we focus on the process and not on the final result? And were there any attempts to maybe figure out and make another urban redesign win?
This was a fully democratic process, which is a part of the problem, right? Because in democracy, you should count every vote. And when it comes to urban functions, you have to prioritize. So we didn't engineer the process, but we did design for the diversity. And that resonated differently with different stakeholder groups, I have to say. But it was fully democratic, and even the biggest media houses in the country took interest in the process and had many questions about the process. Yet, because the platform was designed to be fully transparent, everything was available for everyone at any second. So if there is a certain number of votes for a certain design, you could see pretty much that on the platform immediately. You could explore the designs there. You could leave the feedback. You could pretty much find every one of us at every given moment and talk to us. So yeah, full transparency and being approachable is the way to go.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. I hope, Alberto, the question was addressed, so there wasn't any modification. But something you said, which I find was very interesting, you said you designed it for diversity. That's really a very interesting and nice thing to say, and also very important to create inclusive public spaces. Amina, thanks a lot for the first presentation. We'll move to now moving east. Bosnia is still in the Western Balkans, so moving east to the regional hub for the Arab States region, to Marina. Again, a familiar face, which I know from Bosnia times. Very happy to have you on the panel or as a speaker as well. So Marina is currently the innovation specialist for the Arab States region, based in Amman. She has nearly 20 years of experience spanning from Central Asia, Central Europe, Western Balkan, and the Arab states. Her primary expertise was around governance, public administration reform, but in the past 4 years, she was working more and more on strategic innovation, and it's really about applying system thinking and a portfolio approach to support countries in tackling development challenges and really aspire for system change. She has a genuine interest at the intersection of development and system thinking, and she believes that this has immense potential for driving transformation in societies and in countries. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we have a special guest, which Marina invited, Ismail. So Ismail is the head of solution mapping of UNDP's program for the assistance of the Palestinian people. And he's currently working on the plans for urban regeneration in Gaza. So very crucial work, and I'm very happy that you were able to join us. Marina, the floor is yours, and afterwards you can hand over to Ismail. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Greetings from Amman. And thank you, colleagues, for organizing this conversation, very important, and also bringing us from different regions and global experiences together. I would kindly ask Kevin, please signal us with the time. I think I personally may be carried away once we start to discuss, so please keep the time. In the meantime, let me share my screen and make sure that everyone can see the presentation. But I want to start with the following introductory note. Today, I will voice just a couple of examples of the rich experiences and diverse practices in the Arab States region when it comes to urban regeneration, smart cities, inclusive urban transformation. And in that sense, what will be presented today is not really the comprehensive set of experiences. And the second point I wanted to make is that when looking at the global trends and how things are evolving in that space, and then projecting back or looking specifically in the Arab States region, I felt that today for this conversation, I want to prioritize and kind of put under the spotlight.
Marina, sorry to interrupt you. We see the presenter mode on the screen.
Oh, okay. Thank you for reminding me. Can you see it now better?
It takes some while until the signal reaches Singapore. I see that you clicked the button, but I don't see it yet. Now I see it. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, it's okay. Thank you for reminding. Yeah, so for today's conversation, I felt it will be very interesting to put under the spotlight practices, visions, ideas, which are related to renewal and regeneration of cities or neighborhoods or areas in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. And these are places where destruction has tested resilience, where despite the deep crisis in which communities are living, there is a hope, there is a renewal, there is an aspiration for positive change. And that's why I felt it's when kind of looking at those experiences I wanted to voice today, three things came out as a connecting thread across them. And I wanted to start with them just to frame the conversation and the thinking further. So the first one is around hope. And somehow for me, that dimension is so important and so often undermined. Because even after very deep loss of lives, of opportunities, of destroyed physical homes, infrastructure, it is somehow the belief that I see in those practices, which is, bringing a better tomorrow, which is bringing the positive change in dark times. The second topic that I felt is kind of connecting through all of them, also very important, is around people-led renewal, people-led regeneration processes, and this I think is telling us that really renewal and regeneration in the context of more of a crisis setting is generally happening when communities take charge of their future. There is no external stakeholder. Of course, help is vital. Of course, physical reconstruction is very, very important. But unless people and communities affected by these processes are engaged and have a voice, I think there's no true durable, in the long term, sustainable change that happens in those localities. And the third dimension that I felt is tying together those practices that I will talk about is around identity and belonging. And I think Amina already mentioned that we know that the cities, neighborhoods, urban areas, towns, they all have their own culture, their own vibe, their own spirit in a way. And when we look at the urban transformation in that context and in those settings, we see that like regeneration and renewal is not just about physical infrastructure, like rebuilding the homes or the public spaces, or rebuilding restoring public services, but it's also about restoring hope and restoring this belonging and pride that communities have and have kind of identity and connection to the location. So these are the three common denominators that I see are coming across the examples that we will discuss today quickly. And UNDP has been leading efforts in extremely difficult and extremely challenging circumstances in such cases in the across the Arab states region. And we have been at the forefront of this initiative to actually renew, to rebuild, to reimagine, working with communities, working with local authorities where they exist, or working with different university economic stakeholders, just to help reimagine living spaces, but not only reimagine and voice people's visions, but ultimately leap forward, make the crisis and this often the destructive setting in which the renewal is happening, actually take it as an opportunity to leap forward, innovate from the viewpoint of introducing, even resetting sometimes policies, practices, decisions, behaviors, methods and ways in which traditional, I would say, urban rebuilding and regeneration is happening and transformation. So I will start with the first case and that's from Lebanon. And I have been talking to a couple of colleagues around this. Beirut, specifically one neighborhood in Beirut, which is Karantina neighborhood. And this is the story of the neighborhood which has been supported through a very inclusive and very kind of based on reimagining and engaging communities and different partnerships following the 2020 blast that happened in Beirut and actually almost left the city entirely in ruins. So this catastrophic explosion was leaving many people homeless, took nearly 200 lives, and took away a lot of opportunities and homes, almost devastating effects to the city. However, and this is a specific story of the Karantina neighborhood, and why is that neighborhood? Why was it prioritized in the first place? So this is a place where, from kind of urban geography viewpoint and type of urban settlements, Karantina is not just one of the highest density of citizens in the city, but also as an area, a neighborhood where residents are poor, where we see a mixture of different ethnic groups, many disadvantaged, unemployed citizens with a wide range of challenges, including housing or a job or access to services. So from that perspective, UNDP approached that not just as a neighborhood level regeneration and revival of the area, but also as I think that the conceptual background of it was how can we regenerate or restore, recover the area by leaving no one behind. So that was a very strong element, I think, in the effort. And the whole approach was based on three very important principles. So the first one was around community empowerment. So with and first and foremost, engaging and voicing communities, residents, people who live in that space. The second principle, very important, which was around, almost creating the preconditions for collaborative, like a network effort, which helped optimize resources, avoid duplication. And the third principle, which we see in practice happening, was around learning. And that's very interesting because usually in such crisis settings, we see, the rather traditional way of action, of kind of physical infrastructure being prioritized, the public services, which of course is very, very important. But here, the focus or the whole approach was mostly around experimenting, probing, learning based on deep listening of communities, their needs, their ideas, and also maybe some hidden narratives that no one can capture or hear or respond to. So in that case, the team led a series of very interesting initiatives together with the community, starting with health and mental health, and having engaging with the creatives, the artists, discussing, really reimagining what the neighborhood can look like with new dignity, with new pride, with different accessibility ideas, with different opportunities. Mental health and like, I think one very specific point was around, leveraging theater, arts, performance to actually heal the trauma to the extent possible of communities, bring people together. There was this interesting book which was titled the Living of Al Karantina. So there was the kind of the focus on stories and storytelling from the community, and also at the same time a voice of how they wish to reimagine the future neighborhood. And of course, the more standard actions in terms of cleaning the debris, in terms of supporting physical reconstruction, but based on what people would prioritize. You know, if of all the public institutions like libraries, like community spaces, there was a prioritization done by the local community, and then the recovery efforts of physical infrastructure was actually led by that prioritization. Of course, in parallel, there was also a focus on local livelihoods by physical infrastructure, restoring the marketplaces, and thinking in integrity, in kind of integrated approach around the social, the mental health, economic, public service accessibility in a conjunction, in a correlation. There are a couple of unusual elements for that practice. I would just point to a collective neighborhood committee, which was actually a decision maker together with representatives from the municipality, and particularly pointing the continuous learning. So there were different tools tested, like people-centered diagnostics of what is happening, citizen science, collective intelligence to reimagine particular parts of the area, and so on and so forth. So this is one very good example, I think, of how the collective belonging and identity and engagement of community can help restoring and regenerating. The second story,
Darina,
yeah.
I'm very sorry to interrupt, and I really hate to do that because it's very interesting what you're saying. And I was focusing on the presentation, and I also completely forgot the time. I hate doing that, but would you mind skipping the second example so we have time for Ismail and the experience from Gaza?
Great. I'll do that just to mention that that's a conversation that's evolving in Syria. Very, very interesting. And it is around a totally renewed approach as part of a bigger portfolio of youth inclusion that the team is developing as we speak, despite of the ongoing change of political regime in the country. So the same spirit of reimagining the neighborhood, youth-led, actually like a blueprint of what a different physical and social reimagining of neighborhoods and cities in Syria may look like. So this is, I'll be happy to share more once this practice is also starting and coming to life. And with that, I want to hand over to Ismail, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina, and thank you for the opportunity to present our transitional neighborhoods approach in Gaza. And obviously, I would have hoped to present this when there's a ceasefire to relay a message of hope, but this is what we're trying to do is really relay the spirit of our people in Gaza, our colleagues, friends, who are demonstrating all sorts of resilience, hope, and promise. Just maybe to start by saying that this destruction is the first, although this is the fifth or sixth war in the past 20 years that Gaza has gone through. The unprecedented scale that we are seeing is unimaginable. We have more than 2.2 million residents that are all affected by this crisis. There's an unprecedented loss in human lives, over 40,000 people, Palestinians killed, more than 10,000 people still missing under the rubble, and more than 100,000 people injured, and some who were fortunate to flee at the early stages of the war, around 150,000. The scale of destruction is again unimaginable. You can see the latest UNISAT maps that we have is showing the destruction in September 24th. This has even changed right now. The civil infrastructure has almost entirely gone. More than 380,000 partially or completely damaged houses. That's over 80% of housing units in Gaza. Marina, do you mind? We had early on an engagement with the UAV through a global MOU that UNDP has. And the university is really experienced in planning and reconstruction after crisis. And they came up with a really nice model called the urban triggers, which is an innovative design system. The whole notion of this is that you have to look at the process and not the final result. And I think this was echoed by Amina in her presentation. So it's an evolutionary mechanism. But the central to this is that any immediate assistance, which has to happen, and because of the emergency situation, have to be strategically thought out to ensure that it contributes to the medium and long term. Marina, if you mind. This is where the transitional shelter need came quickly and became so apparent. Usually, our government policy is that everyone has to go back to their homes. This is a political message more than anything else. But unfortunately, with the scale of destruction, this is not even possible. Previous endeavors and previous schemes of self-help modality where people are given a cash for work modality to rehabilitate their homes is not possible. So this is where we started considering, along with the Palestinian government, an approach of transitional housing, enabling people to stay in these homes for 7, 8, 10 years until the city reconstruction starts. Marina, do you mind? UAV presented this really nice flexible concept of fiberglass housing. The reason that they're introducing fiberglass as opposed to steel is because of the Gaza climate, but more importantly, because of the flexibility and adaptability. This allows people to really shape up how they want to build their homes, takes into consideration natural growth of the population, but also, and more importantly, for the medium and long term, these can be repurposed into shopping districts, into affordable housing, into other commercial purposes that could be considered. Obviously, we're trying as much as possible to ensure that we have rubble used to the extent possible in these housing modules. This is just a housing sample of how these structures would look like. Again, here focusing and stressing the flexibility of the fiberglass and the lightweight that it enables quick adaptation to whatever we're suggesting. As you can see, these are the structures made from 2 different sections of fiberglass. So really easy, it's just one mold. Marina. And here you see the whole idea. The portico on the left is the temporary shelter, but obviously in 7, 8 years' time, when the purpose of shelter is no longer needed, this will transition into the bigger city. It becomes part and parcel of the bigger city. And the next slide will show you how the early recovery process is here, where all the destruction is happening. What you see is the housing modules. Later on in the development city, these will look like a part, an extension, and parts of the bigger city development. Obviously, to move into this approach, first you have to find land, and it's very problematic in a very condensed and small holding area like Gaza. We have here more than 300 areas that were identified as part of UN Habitat work. And if we move to the next slide, Marina, we have identified 3 areas, two in Deir al-Balah, one in Khan Yunis. We can find others, but these are the ones that we are moving in with the concept of transitional neighborhoods. And quickly, those slides will show you how we're starting with a small the shelter, but then they become part of the growth of the city. And the final slide, and I'm not taking too long. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. But basically, this is one land that depicts what we're trying to do. It's in Khan Yunis. The budget for the Transitional Neighborhood Program is $100 million, duration of 3 years because this is emergency. We have already secured $23 million from KfW, and the outputs are looking at temporary housing and public services, but it's also looking at livelihood and social cohesion, ensuring self-governance of these communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ismail, and also Marina. I mean, there are no words for what is happening in Gaza, and our thoughts are, of course, with all the people in Palestine suffering from the ongoing war. Thank you so much for sharing the work you're doing. Incredible, important work. So thank you very much for that. Also to you, Marina, for your presentation, sharing your insights, for inviting Ismail. Sorry again for not letting you present the Syria case, which is, of course, and also another very important case in the region you're working in. Unfortunately, we have to move on to our next speaker. I'm sure there's going to be a few questions at the end, so I hope I can keep some minutes there. Apologies to everyone that I'm a terrible moderator in keeping the time, but it's just too interesting and I don't want to interrupt. So I'll move directly to Dana, who's working also in the Arab state region. She's working with UNDP in Jordan, where she's the team leader for development, impact, policy, and planning. But she's worked in the field for international development for the past 24 years. And especially her focus was on innovation and human-centric service delivery and program design, but also people-centered planning and organizational effectiveness. She has worked mostly with different UN agencies in that region on systems thinking, strategic thinking, and also how to use innovative tools and approaches. She has done a lot more, but I will cut short there so she has more time for her presentation. Dana, thanks for being with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Hi, everyone. I mean, I find myself privileged to come after Ismail. Ismail, how are you? Because I think what's happening in Gaza is just an example of how catastrophic things can be and how effective the organization can be in really bringing some issues forward. Now, I have a confession that I struggled with this presentation, to tell you the truth, because I was trying to see what we can do, what we have done as UNDP Jordan that can fit the great work that you guys are doing. So I came up with this title, Testing the Pulse. I hope I just need a thumbs up from one person to see if all is good. Do you see my screen? Kevin, do you see my screen?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. So, testing the pulse, because what we have been doing in the Jordan country office, specifically in Amman, is actually testing the pulse. We have undertaken a number of human-centric urban acupuncture experiments in the city of Amman. And with these testings and with these experiments, we were learning from one of the biggest taboo words in UN dictionary, which is failure. But I think now with the move to much bigger systems thinking, transformation, and portfolios, and all the cliche words that we're using, it actually the equivalent of learning. So without further ado, I welcome you to Amman. Amman is a city of paradox, a city of contrasts. It's a blend of old and new. It's situated in a hilly area. We have deserts, we have sea, we have history, and also we have good food. So whoever wants to come, ahlan wa sahlan, as we say. These are some of the facts that are related to the city that kind of depicts why is it important to always look at the human aspect, because that's what I really wanted to focus on in my presentation. Amman is one of the oldest continuously inhabited city. I mean, it goes back to 7,500 BC. And we have the historical proof with that, with the Ain Ghazal statues that are actually the oldest statues in the world. It's a city of 7 hills, but now it's many, many more. It was built on 7 hills similar to Rome. And that actually plays a significant role in the city's urban planning and architecture. As the city expanded, and it has expanded and is still expanding, it now spreads over 19 hills. And every Jabal means mountain in Arabic or hill, it has its own personality and charm. And then we have a lot of wadis in between, which are the small valleys, which makes certain areas prone to climate related challenges. It is a cultural melting pot. I mean, Amman has been over history a city of diverse population, ethnically, religiously. We have different nationalities and ethnic groups: Palestinians, Circassians, Armenians, Iraqis, Syrians as well. And that was due to the whole recent influx of refugees from neighboring countries because of the situation that the region is in. We do have a creative boom, especially with regards to digital startups. The infrastructure is much advanced than anywhere else in the region, but also Amman has become a hub for entrepreneurs who are shaping not just Jordan's landscape, but also the region. And going back to history, home of the King's Highway, which makes us a natural city or a normal city for trade and so forth. So this is the context that we're talking about. And starting with some of the things that we have done here at the Jordan Country Office, I would like, before we go into, so I'm going to give you a very, very brief summary of 3 initiatives that we have carried out since 2019 with the onset of COVID till the current time. And then maybe towards the end, I will give you just a projection of a new thing that we are working on that will also land in the heart of the city of Amman. Just demystifying some of the terms that we are looking. So when UNDP Jordan is looking at the city, we're looking at the concept of urban resilience. And this is about how a city is able to withstand, adapt, and recover from various shocks. I mean, the resilience is the bread and butter of UNDP. But what we are looking at is really looking at designing systems that enable cities to thrive in the face of any type of change, be it environmental, social, economic, or political. The term urban acupuncture that I used, and for some of you who have been with the organization for a very long time, and with the new transitions that we're doing with regards to systems and portfolios, urban acupunctures really allow us to focus on small-scale targeted intervention towards a bigger end. So how can we focus on 1, 2, 3 entities to simulate a broader and systemic transformation? So this whole urban acupuncture thing really falls into the way UNDP wants to work now and in the future. We are also focusing on area-based approaches, which means that we look at localized interventions that are inclusive, that are integrated, that are tailored to the specific needs of certain people, certain communities, certain habitats, etc., etc., etc. So going back to the urban resilience, this allows us actually to look at 5 areas when it comes to resilience: environment, social, governance, economic, and infrastructure. So this is the concept that we take when we go into looking at the city of Amman. And the end result is having a resilient and healthy city. I mean, of course, these are just like hypotheses that we are working towards, but we are actually using all of the resources we have and all of the technical expertise towards that direction. The first initiative that I would like to talk about is Heart of Amman. Heart of Amman started in 2019. And the objective of that particular project was to revitalize East Amman, which is the center of the city technically, as a cultural and economic hub. There were multiple interventions, whether it's the rehabilitation of cultural heritage, vocational training, encouraging SMEs and startups that could simulate the local market in downtown Amman. And it was mostly on economic revival, especially when we're looking at tourism. With the, I mean, tourism is one of the highest sectors where Jordan's economy is depending on. But ever since what's happening in Gaza and the war in Gaza has started, this has automatically also affected Jordan being very close to the events that are taking place. Social cohesion also, I did mention that we have a lot of influx of refugees coming in because of the crisis around us. And social cohesion becomes a very, very important aspect of all the work that we do, especially when most of the refugees are no longer staying in camps, but are staying in host communities within cities, villages, and governorates across the country. The project had 3 phases. The last one ended last year, but by saying ended, it doesn't mean that it's done. So the Heart of Amman project supported employment creation and skills building in its first cohort, but it was also affected by COVID-19 because that was when it was actually hit. It started in 2019, so the whole 2019, 2020, a little bit of the project actually focused on providing liquidity and technical support to micro businesses to mitigate the negative effects of the pandemic. In the second part, or let's say phase 2 of Heart of Amman, we focused on social cohesion mostly. So supporting refugees and host communities to become more resilient to socioeconomic insecurities, engaging in community-led initiatives, supporting the employment of people, Jordanians and Syrians alike, and also providing technical training and mentorship for social entrepreneurs that came from the first cohort. Now, one thing to really focus on here is that economic growth is one of the biggest priorities of the government of Jordan, especially in light of the high unemployment rate. The SMEs, the creation and the strengthening of the SME ecosystem and also the businesses themselves is a big priority that could help in ameliorating the whole economic situation in the country. Heart of Amman 3 was dealing with one of the cultural aspects of the city related to its trade aspect, which is the Hijaz Railway Corridor. The Hijaz Railway was a train that moved between Hijaz in Saudi Arabia and Jordan for trade purposes, but now it's just much more an identity of the city. So strengthening post-COVID resilience and creating socioeconomic opportunities in the specific areas along the Hijaz Railway was part of the Heart of Amman 3. And then bridging the growing digital divide between the different demographics in the city. What we looked at is more of an area-based approach to resilient and healthy cities, but with people being in the center. So what Heart of Amman did and is doing is looking at urban rehabilitation, social cohesion, and sustainable livelihoods, where people or the residents of that area are concerned. Our latest initiative is in the area of urban farming. As you know, Jordan is second or third poorest country water-wise. We also import 81% of the food that we consume. And taking into consideration all the crises around us. And the issue, we started noticing that with the onset of the war in Ukraine, and the increase in prices, and the suddenly some items were not available in the supermarkets, then food system resilience became an important aspect. And the urban farm that was launched a couple of months ago was to reintroduce urban agriculture to strengthen food systems resilience. In other words, how can we bring in green spaces and agriculture to urban settings, and how local communities can actually sustain it? The key interventions was on establishing an urban farming initiatives in Amman, improving the livelihoods of vulnerable households in the area, but also promoting knowledge sharing across Amman. Beneficiaries, I mean, direct and indirect, at around 500,000 between men and women, mostly men, because in the area of agriculture, we find mostly men, but we also have a very strong intent here at the Jordan Country Office to integrate as much women in non-traditional professions. For example, we have a very big solid waste management project up in the north where women are running the show. We are trying, and the people are trying simply because the economic situation is not helping anymore. The impact is also bridging the gap between communities through shared initiatives, but also support urban farming initiatives and promoting sustainable practices in green urban spaces. Back in 2021, the ACT Lab, the Accelerator Lab here in Jordan, did an experiment about the effect of spatial design on gender norms and roles in the Jerash camp. The Jerash camp is one of the biggest Palestinian camps here in Amman. And the objective was to examine, sorry, not in Amman, in Jordan, it's in Jerash, examine how spatial designs can actually shift gender norms in Jerash refugee camp. We actually worked on redesigning lived spaces, redefining physical spaces in 2 households, and conducting experiments to assess what has changed and whether or not space is a critical aspect in changing power dynamics inside the family or inside communities. And here I would like to say that when we're talking about urban design, we really need to differentiate between what is urban design and what is spatial design. They are connected, but they are completely different, because spatial design also allows us to look at non-architectural engineering-based technicalities. We look at the social, we look at the environment, we look at sustainability. So we looked at the spatial design in this case. Now, the impact, there was not much, let's say, impact in that short period of time, which I think it was 1.5 years, on power dynamics. But there was a change and a shift to a more self-confident behavior among the women once there was, let's say, more freedom for them in those houses, walls were built, and so forth. So what the issue is here is that
Anna, I'm very
yes,
sorry. I'm sorry. You said what the issue is. Can I ask you to wrap you up in 1 minute so we can move
yes,
to our
I
last
only
speaker?
have 1.5 slides to go anyway.
Thanks.
Now, I need to cover some of these issues on the challenges that is being faced. So our vision is for Jordan or Amman, where urban spatial designs foster inclusivity, and this would need strengthened partnerships, innovative projects to address challenges on gender, livelihoods, and resilience, but also integrate urban systems perspective in the urban resilience work. And this enables us to look at the city with its subsystems involved when we're looking at urban transformation or urban designs. But of course, we have challenges. I'm not going to go through that because I think those challenges will be localized, but will also be similar to many of the challenges that many of the examples that have been presented face. But mostly I have to say that the limited resources for large-scale urban transformation with the dwindling of resources coming into Jordan is one of the major challenges. Now, what's next? What we are looking at this point is establishing a city lab. It's a participatory urban innovation lab in the heart of Amman, where real-time data and community-driven experimentation empowers citizens. So here, it's like when you go to the doctor, do your blood tests every year to get a sign of how your vitals are doing, the same for the city. We are hoping to do that with the Greater Amman municipality, who has been our partner in all of the urban work that we have been doing in the center of Amman. But what we're also looking is creating a collaborative space where residents, stakeholders, and innovators co-design solutions to the many challenges that Amman is facing. So stay tuned. Maybe in the next Urban Talk next year, we will have something to talk about that. Thank you very much. And apologies if I took longer than expected. Kevin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dana. No, I mean, apologies from my side for not being able to keep the time throughout the talk. Sorry for that. Fascinating presentation. I really think the aspect of like the system perspective also from an urban resilience angle is crucial. And I think for many country officers and colleagues on this call, this is really something important and many can learn from it. Moving directly to our last speaker, Sargis. He's a director of the Technology and Management Center of Yerevan city, which is working on the management of information system at the municipal level. And they also support the city to develop and implement their smart city strategy. Sargis, over to you.
Thank you, Kevin. Sorry for my voice. I'm a little bit sick today, but I will have short presentation about Yerevan digital transformation and our strategy, how to solve the new challenge in this era. So let me shortly introduce what are doing this agency. As you say, this is Center for Management Technology. This is IT department, easy to say, for Yerevan municipality, and our main mission is transforming the city services and giving electronic service for our citizens. So let me tell a little bit about Yerevan for our it is sorry, and I share my okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Can you see my
yes, we can see it. If you click it on present, yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Okay. I'm going to tell a little bit about strategy for digital transformation. In first part of this year, Yerevan municipality create a digital transformation board, and head of this board is mayor of Yerevan. So every digital project, every tool that we're going to implement in Yerevan passing with this board and getting the priority. We have a to-do list, what we're going to do in next 5 years, how we're going to change the city infrastructure. So as you know, the Yerevan is a capital of Armenia, and approximately 40% of population of Armenia living here. Yerevan is a biggest transportation hub for Armenia. Here is concentrating the manufacturing. Here is concentrating the educational agencies, the clinics, the businesses here. So most activity of Armenia is in Armenia, is in Yerevan. And now we have increasing of construction. Day by day, we have increasing the number of cars in Yerevan. So this is a big challenge for municipality. As a home manager of this area, municipality must solve this all and manage the situation. So Of course, we have too many digital tools for controlling, managing, giving the service, but this is not enough. So this board, his first decision is approving the digital transformation strategy, and I'm going to show you what is mean. By our strategy, we have 5 directions to develop. This is a green city greening project. Next is a mobility. This is a safety, governance, smart governance, and smart environment. A little bit detailed about these directions. Environment, this is integration with governmental services. Greening, of course, this is ecological project. Safety is safety, city safety is not only video surveillance, etc. This is a disaster risk management, first of all. And the big challenge is the mobility. As I said, day by day, we have more cars in a city and constructions. So mobility is the biggest challenge for Yerevan. What is our strategy? First of all, we split the digitization in a 3 layer. First layer is the front office. This is the tools that by these tools, we cooperate with citizens. Next is back office tools. This is business process automatations. And the last is analytic tools. This is for the decision makers. Let me show the detailed map of these tools. Front office, this is our single windows where the citizens can come and physically give their applications. Second is official website where we give our digital services, of course, call center. And our new project is Active Citizen Platform. This is our digital democracy platform, participation, citizen participations and engagements. This is front office. And now I'm showing you the back office. This is the spheres, municipal spheres. We have approximately 30 departments, more than 500 municipal agencies, such as schools, health agencies, transportation agencies, etc. In these different hexagons, you see our departments where we already implement some tools, and in yellow you can see the plans, what we're gonna do there. But as I said, this is not enough. We're gonna to integrate all this data in one platform, in one big data platform for having data analyzing for our decision makers. You see the hexagons where is mentioning GIS. These departments is a special data creators. So when they do their job, they create some special data. So we implement new GIS big platform where we collect all this special data, integrated with some additional data that generated when we do their usual business process, usual job. So we collect all this data, analyzing in a map. We have a different hot maps, different dashboard for any problem that we see in a city, and it helps us to improving the city. And of course, IoT, this is also data creators. This is different hardwares that as in a city, such like GPSs or air quality monitoring sensors and others. All the data coming in same platform and helping us for increase our quality of decisions. And the last one, of course, the city command and control center, where all this data coming and have visualization for 27 and for control. And the last one, as I said, this is environment. This is all the governmental or not governmental agencies where have some data base, registered database, all the data coming to our server, to our system by integration. So this is the main strategy, what we manage the data, how we manage the data, and how we're going to solve the problems in a future. And answering the question, what can change the rule? I think it can be artificial intelligence in 2025. In our new projects, we gonna use artificial intelligence tools. It bringing the fantastic result. It changed the rules. So if any question, I can answer.
Thank you very much, Soris, for your presentation and sharing the insights and the great work you're doing in Armenia. I know it's always difficult to be the last one after a series of speakers, so thanks for bearing with me and also for being concise on your presentation. So we still have a few minutes for question. There were many questions in the chat. Thanks to the speakers who have already responded to them. If addressing all the speakers, if you're okay, I would maybe prolong this session for 5 minutes so we have at least a few questions we could answer. And maybe I'll just gonna kick off with a question Flavi asked in the chat, because I think that is important for everyone. She asked, how do you ensure that people's participation is inclusive and representative in terms of gender, age, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and so on? How do you make sure that people's participation is inclusive and representative? It wasn't directed to anyone, but
in our active citizen platform, there are two front parts. One is a website part, and one is a mobile application. Mobile application, this is the availability for our citizens that they can see some problems in the city and send us, and we solve fast this problem and give him feedback how they help us to improving the city. In this case, there no need hard authorization, but in a website where we put municipal offers and the citizen can vote for different projects. And after this voting, municipality gonna to spend the money from municipal budget. There we need authorization, hard authorization. I don't know this is the right word or no. So we have a governmental signing tool where the citizen sign their vote, digital sign, and we know who is he and what his age and etc. So in this case where we spend municipal money, we need a hard authorization of our participant, and we know who is he and in what age, what gender, etc.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry, one more thing. This project we realized by blockchain technology, so every word passing these chains and everything is true. Everyone know.
Thanks a lot I think it's very important also to have the data about the participant to see the diversity. I was wondering, I wasn't sure if somebody unmuted. if you unmuted yourself before, maybe it was wrong. Does anyone want to add how to make sure that you have this diversity, not only in measuring it and after proving it? Dana, sorry, over
Yeah,
to you.
I mean, one aspect is really consulting with the communities of that urban space early on even when the inception is taking place. And I think here we're looking at the creation, maybe in the case that it does not exist, of participatory governance platforms where you bring government with NGOs, with citizens, and citizens of the different groups as well. The urban designs or whatever you are going to introduce into that space that you are going to work on should actually cater to the needs of the people who live there and the people who use that space. I mean, whether it's ramps for people with disabilities, safe, well-lit places for women and children. I mean, it's all about taking into consideration needs of people in whatever design you're going to put on over there. Now, the outreach might be the most difficult, simply because, I mean, in the case of Jordan, because we also work with government, the trust in government is very, very low. So the moment you tell them we're going to do something, I mean, maybe they will not be as engaged as possible. So looking at non-traditional ways of just bringing them, or maybe technological ways. It could be mobile apps, social media, online platforms that will enable them to provide their input from the comfort of their own homes or from their comfort zones, whatever they want to do it. And also, we really need to make it imperative for us to target communities that are normally marginalized or whose voices are not heard. Knowing the context or the local context that you're working in and the social fabric or the people that are inhabiting that context means that you really need to ask each and every person group or every people's group questions about what are their needs and what are their aspirations about a specific space or urban space. So I think it's really having them as a soundboard, not just from the beginning, but throughout the implementation, because that would also, and making them feel that they are decision makers in how that space evolves or develops, because that would guarantee ownership at the end of the day, because we don't want to fall into the bump where it becomes a UNDP project or an XYZ project, and then the funding will go and we will move on. So the idea is for the community, to the community, and by the community. I mean, something of that line. Thank you very much.
No, thanks a lot, Anna, for outlining. I think that speaks to many on this call. I think this combination of non-traditional and technological ways to really have the citizens as a sounding board is super important, and to make sure that marginalized communities are part of it. I will stick to the 5 minutes extra I'm already asking from you. So I will ask you, each of the speaker, to stick to 1 minute, and maybe you can share either a specific lesson you learned and something maybe you would do differently, or to give one advice for people who would like, for colleagues or cities who want to start really reimagining urban spaces. And before you answer, I just want to recognize a few questions which have been asked from Sechil, from Daval. I know a few others have been answered in the chat. Apologies. Apologies for that, for not having enough time. And now speakers had enough time to think about my question. And I go around the circle. I'll start with you, Amina.
I will say one thing as an advice and a reminder to myself as well. When you are working with such a diverse audience as the users of a public space, really you have as a team to leave all the assumptions behind. And for us, it's easier as social innovation practitioners, right? To get into this dialogue empty-headed, but the experts in architecture, in urban planning, etc., they all enter the dialogue and us in UNDP often with a range of assumptions. Like you already know what the people need, what the people think, you already have assumptions about their participation as well, right? So you are sure that so many people will come to your consultation because you're providing them with this marvelous opportunity. That's not going to happen naturally. I mean, you need to create preconditions for people to feel safe first, for example, to participate and speak up. And then, we had many assumptions about the willingness of the local government to actually listen to the people's voices and do something about it. So, just, have your expectations in check and really try to have a systems view and forget about everything you think you know.
Thanks a lot, Amina. You actually stick to 1 minute, and it was really great. So high level for the next, a high bar for the next one who will give either an advice or a lesson learned. On my screen, it's Ismail. Hey, I don't hear anything. Then let Dana. You're next. We'll get back to Ismail.
Yeah, I mean, it's a follow-up to what Amina has just said. I mean, 90%, and I'm really exaggerating, I'm not exaggerating here. 90% of the time, people who are facing a challenge have a solution to that challenge. Okay, but maybe they don't necessarily have the means or the resources to make that happen. So always talk to the people. I mean, there is a problem. There is a reason why these problems happen, and that could be already in the history of that place that we are. So talking to elderly people, talking to people who are using that space always helps us in really identifying where the problem is. And this way we save both resources and money. I'm going to give an example in Jordan, in Amman. There's an area called Ras Al Ain, which is the source of the spring. So that's where all the water was once upon a time. And then for the whole urban expansion, they decided to close it. Ever since that closure, we have flash floods and flooding whenever it rains heavily in Amman. So, I mean, respect the natural, historical, and cultural characteristics of the place, because that's part of the solution. So that's what I would actually give to everybody as an advice. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Dana. Also stick to 1 minute. Marina, 1 minute for you.
Can you hear me? Okay. So 3 things come to my mind, looking back and also looking forward. The first one, especially based on my work and experience in the past months, from UNDP perspective, I think we need to stay humble and remain humble when engaging with so many different people, destinies, lives, interests even. And this is something I think we need to be more attentive towards in our work at the community level for renewal, regeneration. The second point that comes to my mind is how can we, start to engage differently with stakeholders in the ecosystem, like local governments, like civil society, so they become the carriers of those new skills and capabilities to facilitate such agency and legitimacy of communities, and like the true sense of empowering them. So it's not an exception of one pilot approach but how can this become more the new setup and the new default?
And
So
your minute is over. Sorry, Marina.
I'll stop there.
Or if you just want to say, because there was a third one, what is the third one?
The third one is around using the crisis to lead forward. I really think that this is a great opportunity that we can rebuild and kind of really lead forward from destruction or crisis setting.
Thank you, Marina. Ismail, over to you for 1 minute.
Yes, maybe just to echo what others were saying. The importance, particularly in crisis situations, is to design a process, a participatory process, and not the end result. We cannot dictate, we cannot impose, we cannot imagine what the end result could be. The most that we could do is design a participatory process that allows for everyone's ideas and efforts to be contributed in reimagining the possibilities of what could happen.
Thank you so much. I just want to recognize Sorgis has left, so that's why he will not get a minute. Thank you so much to all the speaker. Fantastic, interesting topic, interesting work you do. Sorry for going over time to everyone. Recognizing also many have stayed. This was the last one of the year. I wish everyone a good end of the year season, and I hand over to Darini. Thank you so much to everyone.
Thanks, everyone. 30 seconds for me, just to give you a huge thank you for joining us on this last Urban Talk of the year. Thank you to the speaker, thank you to the moderators, the translators, the recorders, and for you, the audience who keeps joining week after week. I put in the chat the library of fantastic 2.5 years of Urban Talks here, so feel free to have a look at this. And we are done for the year, so I wish everyone a fantastic end of 2024. And I want to thank you again and wish you a fantastic end of the year. Thank you so much. The
Okay.
recording is going to be sent to everybody. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.